I'd like to know if we elect your president, will you pledge to do your best to repeal NAFTA, CAFTA, and the TPP and put Americans back to work in factories like they belong?
Thank you very much for that question, Ed. I think if you have listened to me on the campaign trail or in the halls of the United States Senate and on the floor there, you would know that I helped lead the opposition against NAFTA when I was in the House and against CAFTA, against permanent normal trade relations with China, and I'm currently helping to lead the effort against this disastrous TPP. It is clear to me that all of these trade agreements were written by multinational corporations, Wall Street, the drug companies, with the goal of making it easier for them to shut down in America and move abroad, and that's what they've done. We have lost something like 60,000 factories since 2001, millions of decent-paying jobs. So yes, to answer your question, my view is we need a fundamentally new direction in trade. Trade is a good thing, not a bad thing. But trade policies have got to work for the workers of this country and the workers abroad, not just for the CEOs of large corporations who can make huge profits by shutting down here and exploiting poor people in developing countries. So to answer your question this is a hugely important issue, something I feel very strongly about, and yes, we will revise significantly our current trade policies.
And now that the president has that authority to sign a trade bill, when a trade bill comes to his desk, does he have the option with the stroke of a pen to delete or take anything out of a trade bill, or does he have to send it back to the perpetrators that authored the trade bill for changes to be made? So he can give it a thumbs up or a thumbs down, but is he allowed to make any changes in any of the trade bills that come before his desk?
Well, Ed, to the best of my knowledge, the answer is no. Essentially, what this fast-track authority was about is to say, okay, you have an agreement right now, which is essentially completed. What you now have is the authority to get an agreement with 11 other countries, and then once that agreement is agreed upon by all 12 countries, it will come back to the Congress, and there will not be any amendments allowed. There will not be any, it'll be a 50-vote situation in the House, not a 60 vote, and the president cannot change it because then it would have to go back to the 11 other countries and the whole process would continue. So to answer your question, to the best of my knowledge, the answer is no. Once the president concludes negotiations and has an agreement, it comes to the Senate, comes to the House, up and down vote, no amendments, and he signs it.
We believe that access to more markets abroad is frankly a very good thing for the entrepreneurs that we represent, with more than 95% of the global market being outside of the United States. So the question is, can you tell us a little bit about your concerns with the Trans-Pacific Partnership as it stands today?
Yes. Good question, fair question. And Javier, please do not understand my position as being something that we put a wall around America and we don't trade. Trade is a good thing.
Okay.
The question is, what kind of trade agreements do we establish? Who benefits from those trade agreements? Now, I voted, when I first got into Congress, 1991, at that period NAFTA came up. I voted against NAFTA. I voted against CAFTA. I voted against permanent normal trade relations with China. And you're quite right. I'm helping to lead the opposition against the TPP. Why? What I have always believed, and I think the facts bear me out, is number one, these trade agreements were essentially written by corporate America, the big money interest, by Wall Street, by the pharmaceutical industry. They were not written with the goal of improving life for people in the United States of America. Essentially, what they were written to do was to say to large corporations, okay, you do not have to pay workers in this country 15, 20, 25 bucks an hour. You can shut down in America. You can move to China. You can move to Vietnam. You can move to Mexico. You can pay people substantially lower wages, and you bring your products back into America. I believe that that was the intention of these pieces of legislation, and I believe that that is exactly what has happened. Two things. Since 2001, we have lost almost 60,000 factories in America, and I'm not going to tell you all of that is attributable to trade, but a lot of it is. And second of all, we are in a race to the bottom, so that now companies say to workers, well, you know, if you don't take a pay cut, we're going to go to China, because we have that opportunity in China. So I believe in trade, but not unfettered free trade. Frankly, I do not believe that American workers should be forced to compete against workers around the world who make pennies an hour. I think that that is unfair. And I can go on longer. I don't want to go on longer. The TPP has additional provisions in it which I do not like. So what I want to see is a trade agreement which works for the middle class and working families of this country as well as people around the world, not just for the CEOs of large corporations.
So a track record against NAFTA, CAFTA, TPP, et cetera, would you classify yourself or characterize yourself as anti-trade?
Nope. I am anti that philosophy of trade agreements. I am anti a trade agreement which results in jobs being lost in America. And let's be clear, we have lost millions of jobs as a result of these trade agreements. I am against that. But I believe we can establish trade policies that work for small business, that work for workers in our country, work for people in other countries. But that has not been the philosophy behind the trade agreements that I have seen in the last 20 years.
Okay.
You're absolutely right. Trade is essential for American agriculture, and no place knows that better than Iowa. And in the overview that I gave of my proposal, I said that we need trade, but we need trade that meets the three criteria that I've laid out. That it, protects American jobs, it grows the economy, and it also advances our national security. And that's why I am focused on looking for how we make trade work better for all aspects of our economy. But I am well aware of how critical trade is for American agriculture, and I'm going to do everything I can as president to make sure, regardless of what trade agreements we have, that American farmers get a really good shot at new markets and new opportunities. And I think we'll have some ways of doing that, and in my longer description of these policies that I overviewed today, you can see more about what I mean.